Hi, I'm Robin McRae. I'm Sketchtrosties, I'm Comedic Interlude, I run this channel, and welcome to the commentary track of The Smothering. Fun fact, Mackenzie was supposed to be here. She was originally in the original record, and she was going to edit it all together, etc, etc, and then she lost her half of the audio. So it's just me now, which is a bit sad, because making fun of Mackenzie was I think, my favourite part of the entire commentary track. So yeah, here we go. Here's The Smothering. Yeah, pause it straight away. This lovely title card. Mackenzie was very invested in making it look official. Originally, this was a episode about Peridot going to the dump repeatedly to get scrap to make hospital equipment for Stephen, because she read a book about childcare and then got terrified by the idea that humans were just so vulnerable and easily wounded, hurt, or diseased. So she became a little bit overprotective in terms of things that humans aren't too bothered by. She would drive back and forth between the junkyard, and she would meet this woman who worked at the junkyard who was clearly obsessed with robots and believed her to be a cyborg of some kind. Which she almost is, although I think Peridot would be a pilot of some sort of mech device, if anything. Yeah, so, yeah, this is, I changed the Smothering to be as much like a Steven Universe episode as possible. So it's an all POV Steven. Everything feels as Steven as possible, which I think definitely works, since a lot of people have commented that it feels like a return to Season 1, which is, well, the thing I was going for, and very different to what we currently have in this show right now. Yeah. Yeah, Mackenzie made these lovely little intro slides, and everything to make them look very official. Originally, there was going to be a little slot at the beginning that said, "This is a mum swap," brackets, "This is what a mum swap is." I don't think it was that big a deal. It's fine, we skipped it. Looks very polite and pretty. And here we have the intro. You'll realise, having already watched this, I hope that this episode is very cyclical, not cyclica. It sounds like a disease. Yeah, this episode is very cyclical. It runs in cycles. This is Stephen waking up in the opening his eyes shot. Stephen waking up in this bed and walking down the stairs is repeated twice. Stephen waking up in this bed is repeated twice. Stephen going to the fridge repeated twice. Stephen goes out on mission twice. Everything just changes around him. Reference to Peridot going to the junkyard to pick up trash to build equipment. You'll notice that the heart monitor is jerry-rigged and has a car battery duct taped to it to give it power.
Down. He'll break the thermometer.
Mackenzie had some issues. We had some issues trying to figure out how to make the
Peridot
sound effect of the heart monitor not be annoying. So we ended up making it quiet, just enough to hear, and the moment Stephen takes it off, it dies, and then just fades out because you don't need to hear it anymore.
Do we really have to do this every day? I mean, couldn't we maybe do the health checkups once a week?
No, this is fine. It's better to gather data as frequently as possible.
You'll notice how sped up this part is. If you go back and watch the test footage, you'll notice that this part is way faster than the test footage. This is important because in the test footage, this part was agonizingly slow with no good reason to be. So I changed the dialogue around and reorganized stuff. I'll add that Mackenzie pointed out this part was very slow. I went back and watched it and thought, oh god, you're right. And so I changed around everything so this part goes by way faster, which might be an ironic statement considering the amount of times I'm pausing.
Oh, Data's not gonna stop me from getting sick again.
It's good to be prepared, Stephen.
Hey, look, it's everyone's favorite shot. I hope you noticed the crying breakfast friend sticker on the spare blood and the choco milk, possibly the real star of the episode.
Okay, but I just don't want you to waste too much of your time worrying about me.
You can't waste time worrying.
We're back.
Hey Jasper, hey Lapis!
Those of you who are astute enough in the comments to have noticed, yes, Steven is making a mayonnaise sandwich. Steven in the show has proven that Steven is probably a bit pudgy in the show, especially in the earliest seasons, because he eats garbage because the gems don't know anything about nutrition and just allow him to eat whatever. so Steven is eating a mayonnaise sandwich.
Steven, put that knife down. You'll cut yourself.
Hey guys.
Hey, Steven!
Yes,
Hello,
Lapis is
Steven.
peppy. You'll notice in this shot as well, Jasper is holding a roll of duct tape because that's what Lapis and Jasper were just doing. They beat up a monster and they found a little gemling thing. Like in the episode where Opal appears for the first time. When they shoot the giant bird monster, there's this bunch of smaller bird monster things. That was the same idea here. The goo-producing gemling is... hiccup. The goo-producing gemling was something they thought, wow, this can't possibly threaten Steven. Let's keep it here, and he can have it as his first mission.
That is a really good idea. Well, let's do that right now.
So they go and do it. So thus, Jasper duct-taped it to the rock.
Did you
Lapis
sleep
is
well?
cheerful in this mum swap because, one, this was actually written before Catch and Release aired. I storyboarded it in like a day and a half on paper on the floor in the place I used to live. We didn't know anything about Lapis and Jasper, basically. The only thing I knew about Lapis, the thing anyone knew about Lapis, was that she was very happy when she was talking to Steven in a mirror. And that she'd clearly suffered for thousands of years and was very sad. In this version of reality, Lapis has not spent thousands of years suffering in a mirror. And the subtly... Lapis also has a subtle moment when they're on the boat together. And he goes, Lapis, why don't you run the boat? And she goes, no, don't put me in charge! Implying that also Jasper calls her a monster when they share their memories. So... it's highly implied Lapis did some terrible stuff before being trapped in a mirror. So in this reality, that didn't happen, and she doesn't have a reason to be mopingly depressed all the time, or have any sort of PTSD. So in this version of reality, she's just very excited for Steven to go on his first mission and to show him the monster that he's going to be able to beat up and not have any threats from. Which is why she's particularly cheerful for this episode.
Yeah, I slept pretty great. At least until Peridot woke me up again with her health checkup.
Health checkup? Are you sick?
You don't look sick.
No, I'm not sick. Peridot's just been doing checkups on me every day since I got that cold.
You're still doing that?
Yes, I'm still doing that, Jasper. Unlike some gems, I actually care about Steven's safety.
We all care about Steven Peridot. You're just being overbearing.
This is a good shot, and I appreciate it. In the top right, you'll notice a poster that I probably should have pointed out earlier. Perhaps I'll drag back the slider and talk about it.
I'm maternal. Steven, tell her.
Well, you did take my second pillow away, 'cause you said it might be dangerous.
Fiddling with... I really like holding a shot to drag all the humor out of it. I think getting the timing perfect on these things is very important to keep them funny. If you hold on them for too long, you get a sort of Family Guy effect where it just keeps staying there and you want it to leave. If you don't hold it long enough, it's not very funny at all. And if you just let it pass by really quick, then no one has any chance to laugh at it.
I was worried about you being smothered in your sleep. Anyway, you don't need to.
It was nicer with two, though.
If you're wondering why that bread is so soft, as some of the comments do, it's because Steven is eating trash white bread. He's eating the 50-cent white bread that you get in giant packs and goes off within 10 minutes of opening it.
For someone so worried about smothering, you seem to be doing a lot of it.
Oh! Jasper, don't you perhaps have something heavy? You need to be moving
Peridot
around?
is not very good at comebacks. Maybe you've noticed this. Jasper doesn't care.
Steven, we're going out on a mission. Would you like to come with us?
I can go on the mission?
What? Steven can't go on mission. It's too dangerous. He's not ready. He doesn't have any powers. He can't.
I asked Steven. No worries, Steven. We'll be there to protect
I
you.
sort of tried to hint at some relationships between the gems here. Not shipping, as some people have asked. I'm not sure why people saw shipping in this episode. I think it's because once you've got shipping goggles on, you might be physically incapable of taking them off. But the little glance that I will just wiggle slide back to in this hot second.
Powers, he can't.
Jasper gets very angry. Jasper has a lot of anger,
Steve.
and then cuts herself off because they don't like yelling and fighting in front of Steven. I imagine this group of homeworld gems as being like a worse version of the crystal gems. So Jasper considers herself the leader. Neither of the other two do. Lapis isn't interested in going on missions, despite the fact she's vastly overpowered. Peridot doesn't respect either of them and thinks she's smarter than both of them, which I think is the most accurate depiction of a characterization I have here. Peridot is very smug and condescending, so I just made all of their worst attributes worse, but they all had to hang out with each other. The flash here where Peridot glances at Lapis to see if she's going to do something, and Lapis is really just, that Jasper lost her temper again. I tried to give little flashes of sort of history of relationships between the gems.
No worries, Steven. We'll be there to protect you.
Yes, Steven, come with us. It'll be great. You'll get to see us fight a giant monster up close.
I'd like to add that Anisha played Lapis. You'll find links in everything, everywhere on the actual Smothering about all the voice actors. I have the least interesting things to say about Anisha because she just handed in her lines and they were good. Which meant, as opposed to all the other actors who I had to spend a lot of time dealing with, Anisha just handed in lines and they were fine. It was very easy to work with her.
He has to stay at a reasonable distance.
Whereas Clarice, who is Peridot, she does a wonderful Peridot, but considering the fact that Mackenzie and Clarice had to send in tons of lines of dialogue, we had to spend a lot of time working together to make those dialogue takes really good, and good for the scene, and good for the shot, and good for the expression drawn. Because if someone provides an excellent take of, I am really upset right now, and it doesn't fit the expression, then you just have to throw it in the bin, because it doesn't work. Steven doesn't have the star eyes that he does in the main show, because in... I'll flash back to the door, actually, because I skipped that. Let me hover back over here. This is going to be a mildest of nuisances. Yes. Okay, so... Is there a slowdown button on this? Who knows?
You'll cut yourself.
And I'm not going to pause to find out. Okay, you see in the background, there's this star. In the main show, the crystal gems have a 5-pointed star, and we know this because it represents each of their gems, Garnet being a fusion. These gems don't have a fusion, therefore they only have a 4-pointed star, and that's why you see on each of their designs, instead of the homeworld insignia of a diamond, they have a 4-pointed star. It's very subtle. I could have redesigned all of their outfits, but I really didn't want to redesign all of their outfits. I didn't feel like... I wanted to be accurate to the show. I'm sure I could have given them some interesting outfits, but, like, not enough to warrant changing them, I thought.
We're back.
Hey, Jasper. Hey, Lapis.
Steven!
You'll
Put
be
that
able to
knife down.
see...
We'll do.
Peridot,
Sleep.
you see here, instead of having a diamond, has the little 4-pointed star. Lapis's beach dress is slightly curved in its diamond designed on the front. It's pretty subtle, but I don't think there's too much wrong with it. So this is why Steven has stars in his eyes that are 4-pointed instead of 5, just because it references the show as it is in this continuum.
Steven, your first mission. You're gonna have so much fun.
Peridot, I'm not sure if you know this, but Peridot might be a little overprotective, just a touch. People have raised concerns that this mum swap, quite a few mum swaps are just taking what happened in the show and then wallpapering the crystal gems with the homeworld gems. So you take Garnet and then you have her say the lines Garnet says, but you wallpaper Jasper over her. So, yeah, there are a lot of comics, they have value. People enjoy them. They're entertaining. But while they do have a value, I do think they're a bit of a wasted effort. No, not a wasted effort, but the effort that a lot of people have taken to create really, really well-drawn, accurately portrayed recreations of scenes from the show, where Jasper says Garnet's lines instead of Garnet. I mean, they look good and people enjoy them, but they could have just written something new instead, and I feel that would have been a better use of effort. It's not that they're... Yeah, again, it's not that they're a waste of effort, I just feel that the effort could have been used in a slightly different way to create something that would have been much more engaging. So, my use of these characters, people think that Peridot is being Pearl. Peridot ended up acting a lot like Pearl. She was always intended to be overbearing. That was the whole point of the episode. But she's overbearing because she's smug and condescending towards the other two and thinks she's the only one capable of looking after Steven. She's also far, far worse than Pearl, which is important. All the characters are worse than their Crystal Gem counterparts. Lapis ended up being very amethysty. She's supposed to be very excited in this episode about Steven going on his first mission because she thinks he'll have a really fun time. Jasper acts a bit like Garnet because we knew nothing about Jasper other than that she was a bit terse with her words and very straightforward. So the major separation between Jasper and Garnet is that Jasper in this continuum talks about war and violence whenever I can slip it into her dialogue, because we didn't know anything about her personality other than that she was big and strong and liked being big and strong.
Whoa!
It's the Safety First helmet. You'll notice that the Safety First is written in Comic Sans, the most annoying of fonts. The helmet was supposed to be annoying, so it felt appropriate.
Jasper and Lapis scout ahead. That way we'll always be close to the warpad in case anything dangerous happens.
Hey, Steven, come look at this. It's super gross.
Okay.
Some people haven't noticed that this coming up shot, Peridot reaches towards Steven and her fingers gently droop, as if, no, come back. That's intentional. I didn't just leave the camera hanging on that.
What is this stuff?
We don't know. It's some kind of slime residue made by the monster we were tracking. It's
I
harmless
imagine
to
that
us.
Lapis could have power over this ooze in the same way she has power over water, because it would primarily be water. She just has less
But it's
controlled
killing all the
power
plants
over
around
it
here.
because
Plus,
it's there's a lot of ooze on it, so she can control the water inside, but it leaks and goops a bit.
totally gross.
Lapis, don't.
Get that muck away from him! That could be infectious.
Peridot.
You'll notice lots of Mackenzie added in floods of tiny sound effects for clothes rustling and things being touched. Yeah, you don't really notice them, but when you take them away, it feels wrong. So yeah, grats Mackenzie for spending a large amount of time inserting small into every action she could.
Lazuli. Lapis, don't you dare! Yeah, Lapis, no!
We got I got Clarice to do the audio for Peridot. She was trying to figure out how to make herself quiet while yelling. And I said, why not stand on the other side of the room to record your audio? And it worked quite well. I will hop back. You'll see a bunch of random gem stuff floating in the background. I tried to include symbols of the Diamond Authority and whatever on everything I could find, pretending it's part of the show. Here is Steven wearing the Safety First hat. This isn't hugely relevant, but as an artist I enjoyed it. That's not the word Safety First. That's some junk coloured yellow where you know Safety First is. Your brain knows that says Safety First, so it just glosses over it. So you can just ignore that. I don't think I rewrite the word Safety First again because you've seen it twice and now you know what it looks like. So now I can just write some garbage that looks like safety first with a tick next to it. And your brain just says, okay, cool. Safety first. Because you don't need to know it's there anymore. In the same way, if I zoom into a hand holding a sword, I will draw detail on the sword. I'm referencing... Someone might be highlighting in their brain going, hey, I saw that in Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics. Or Making Comics. Either one of them. If I zoom in on a hand holding a sword as an artist, then I draw detail on the sword. When I zoom back out, the sword just becomes like 4 lines. And that's fine, because once you know detail is there, you understand that detail is there, and you are just being simplified and abstracted.
Steven! Over
There
here!
was some art shop talk for anyone who cared.
Climb across.
Mm,
Stay calm, Steven. Use your arms to balance and walk slowly. Crawl
See,
if you
the
need
thing
to.
is, now that we know more about Jasper, like 3 seasons later, I'm not sure what else I would have added to Jasper's personality in this script. Because to reiterate, at the time, Jasper had appeared in 2 episodes and had done nothing but declare that she hated fusions and liked fighting. And that was it. So I think what I would do, I'm not even sure what I would do. I think I'd just make her say slightly more dialogue. I think I'd have Jasper be slightly more calm. And less terse, but probably only to make her sound less like she's Garnet. I
Careful,
think, if
Steven.
I remember correctly, this is Mackenzie's favourite joke. I might be wrong. Here we have safety first. See, safety first is written here because it's a close-up. And then I zoom out and it turns into blurs. Yeah, it's a blur now, but you know it's there. Ooh, isn't art fascinating? Jasper glances up.
Steven, when you're in the field, it's important to obtain as much knowledge of the area as possible, so that you have the tactical advantage to crush your
I tried
opponent.
to add Jasper flavor to this line. This line was originally different. Or was it? I'm pretty sure it was different. I won't bother to check. I'm pretty sure this line was different, and I changed it to sound more in character because Jasper didn't do much except get angry that one time. Yeah. So Jasper talks about violence and warfare here and does a fist shake to demonstrate that she thinks about war a lot. It's a bit of tinging the character with some form of flavor.
Get on top of that vantage point. Tell me if you
I
see
mean, the
anything
reason the
important.
episode's just about Steven and Peridot is they're the only characters in this that we actually understood in any capacity, which is why Lapis just acts like she did when she was having fun with Steven in the mirror, and then conversely annoyed with Peridot, and then Jasper is either angry or trying to be a good mum, but but sort of being like your military parent who always talks about Nam. Reference to military, Steven salutes Jasper, just felt appropriate. She's a warlike being. Well, she's a soldier, Jim.
cool.
What do you see?
Well, I can see a lot of things. I can see a big
Look at how
lake over
cute she
there.
is. Sorry, I make a lot of jokes on my blog about how Jasper's the worst, but goddamn, something about a giant woman with giant fluffy pink hair makes me want to just hug her. Mainly hug her hair, or like have a pillow version of her. But like, she just looks soft.
Way. There's a bunch of
Well, in this
rocks and
continuum, she's soft. In the real show, she's sort of unpleasant and terrifying, and they occasionally draw her with gross teeth.
looks like more broken pillars up ahead. And then there's what kind of looks like a big clearing where some trees have fallen down.
Look, I just drew a Pac-Man eating a tick, but it doesn't matter. Ooh, I just love art.
Stay still, Steven. I'm coming. Phew, that was close.
I like
You
to
could've
imagine
fallen
that
in-
off-screen Lapis is just floating over watching Jasper sees Peridot come up and grab Steven and just rolls her eyes so hard she does a pirouette in the air.
Seriously damaged your cranium. At least you were wearing
If you're
your
wondering
helmet.
why Jasper doesn't grab Peridot and say, Peridot, Steven's not in any danger. We found a tiny weak gem, we sellotaped it to a rock, and it's no big deal. It's because they don't respect or like Peridot. None of the gems in this like each other yet. Just like in season 1 of the real show, the gems have not got over Rose's death, and they do not work together very well. If this reality of the show continued, they would eventually work out their differences with each other. I wrote backstory for how the gems interacted with each other. Peridot's focused on tech and doing the correct thing. She's also smug, superior, and thinks she's smarter than the other two, so wants to do it her own way. She thinks protecting Steven is important because she's the one who actually picked up a whole bunch of books and internet reports on childcare, and then got terrified by how easily humans can die. Jasper respects Rose, and because Jasper's a perfect gem, in that she was basically born perfect, but Rose is better than her because she was a great leader and everyone liked Rose, including Jasper. So, what is Jasper? Jasper's sort of Rose, but inferior in some way? Jasper wants to understand why Rose cared about humans so much. Because while she respects that they shouldn't die, I don't think she actually really cares about humans that much. At least, people that aren't Steven. I wrote some nonsense down where Jasper hits on Greg. Not because she's attracted to Greg, but because Rose hit on Greg and then fell in love with him. So Greg clearly has value, and although Jasper doesn't see or appreciate his value in any form of romantic way, she hits on him because that's what Rose did, so it's probably a good idea. The joke was, "Are you hitting on me, Jasper?" "Yes." "I don't take this the wrong way. I always thought you viewed me as an annoyance that got in Rose's way and that you didn't like or respect me." "Yes." "Oh, so why are you hitting on me?" "Well, Rose saw a lot of value in you, so you must have a lot of value, clearly, that I just can't see." Wow, Jasper, that is... I'm not gonna lie, that is not romantic. Fluff like that, I enjoyed writing it.
Hey, Steven! Want me to fly you around and look for the
Lapis's
monster?
arc was... Lapis, what we know about Lapis is that her character is about freedom. Well, at least as far as I could tell, Lapis's character was always about freedom. One, she can fly, the greatest symbol of freedom you can have for a character. And she is constantly not free. She starts the plot trapped, then she is trapped on Earth, and then she flies away and becomes trapped, and then she gives up and stays trapped, and then she gets free only to trap herself, choosing to be trapped in a fusion where she becomes trapped eventually. She is freed, and then she says she's going to stay on Earth, and then ends up hanging out with Peridot on a farm, and being like, you know what, this isn't so bad. And then she becomes very depressed. I don't really fully understand what happened to Lapis. But, yeah, as far as I understood, her character was about freedom a lot. I think she was about freedom, and then turned into a character suffering from post-traumatic stress and trauma. But yeah, her arc would be about freedom. So she's totally happy with the amount of freedom she's got, in that she doesn't want to do anything. She sort of hangs around. I don't think Jasper needs help beating up monsters. So Lapis hangs around. I think Lapis is the fun aunt that you could spend time with, and then be like, "Hey, Auntie Lapis, I'm hungry and we haven't had dinner." And she's like, "Oh, crap!" And then she says a swear word and goes, "Whoops, don't repeat that." And then she calls in for pizza. And then she's like, "Here we go, pizza." "Auntie Lapis, we've had pizza 4 times this week. I think I need vegetables." Whatever, we'll get them tomorrow." "Oh, okay." Peridot is a mother that would love to send you to boarding school, but is terrified that she wouldn't be able to see you literally every day.
Do I? Great, we'll go right
The
now.
stilted dialogue here, "Great, we'll go right now," is because Lapis is intentionally just saying this to annoy Peridot.
Yeah.
Peridot.
Jasper, what are
you?
I think
Don't
something I could have
worry.
done with Jasper here is say something along the lines of, Peridot, just stop.
Peridot, I'll be fine.
Or,
I'm
Peridot, I will now explain to you why this isn't a big deal. And then she watches Stephen almost die.
Lapis. Whoa. I'm okay.
This is why they're the homeworld gems, not the crystal gems. Paul would never try and kill Garnet in a moment of frustration in an attempt to save Stephen from what she perceived as mild danger. Not that she's literally attempting to kill Jasper. The angle of the shot means that she would just hit Jasper in the face. It's possible, considering the power of Peridot's blaster, that if this shot connected, she might literally shatter Jasper. But it's comedic, so it's fine.
She'll be fine.
I think this is one of, like, 2 scrolling backgrounds. It's just a very large background where we hang the shot in the center. You could probably figure out how we did this, actually. Maybe I won't bother explaining it.
Oh, hey, there's another river. And it's filled with
Mackenzie
gross
worked.
slime.
Oh, shout out to Mackenzie. She worked some editing magic in this background. Instead of making it scrollable, instead of me making it scrollable, she said, they're flying, they should move. Or I did, I don't remember. But so she just zoomed into the background and slowly dragged them past it.
Stuff.
Hey, that must be where the monster is. Let's go get it.
Whoa.
Lapis' wings smash with the gravity when she lets go of them and turn to water on the ground. I liked this. It felt nice.
Lapis, shouldn't we wait for the others?
It'll be fine, Steven. Come on, I bet it's over here.
I really should have, in retrospect, when Stephen is running across after Lapis, all I did was
Lapis,
change
shouldn't we
which
wait
leg
for
was
the
going out
others?
in front.
It'll be fine, Steven. Come
I'll
on, I bet it's
go
over
there.
here.
Take a step. So all I do here is change which leg is in front. I really should have, in retrospect, slightly tilted him forwards and backwards when he changes legs. Because instead of looking like he's running, he looks a bit like he's flickering. Now that I've spent a year at animation college, learning animation in a college about animation, I think I would have done a better job. But this is before I actually learned anything, so whoopee for me.
Lapis, I'm not so sure.
Found it! Steven, come look!
Lapis!
Ta-da!
As people have commented, yes, this does look a bit like tree trunks. Yes, it's duct taped to the rock. I love held shots. Oh, Lord. She's so happy. I think this is my favourite moment because it just demonstrates one of my favourite things in all of writing. Characters trying to be human. The gems aren't human, but gosh darn they try and they really care about Stephen. And the fact that they just fail in such interesting ways, it's always wonderful. Here we just see Lapis. Stephen would love this. Let's do this thing for Stephen.
Well, yeah, Lapis, it's a great idea. Let's do this thing with Stephen.
What if it runs away? Well, what about Greg's duct tape?
Yeah, that's great.
Let's go get Greg. No, let's just get the duct tape.
Okay.
I'll go get the duct tape. Okay, fine. I'll wait here and just make sure it doesn't leave. Okay. They were so excited. Stephen's loving this. I bet he's just so happy inside.
Aren't you excited, Steven?
My
It's your
son
very
is having a great day.
first official mission monster! Isn't it cool?
Stephen demonstrates his vast sympathy and empathy by realizing that this is a clear setup for him to have a good time in a safe environment, and just pretends it's good because he's a great child.
It's pretty cool, I guess. I just didn't think it would be so fluffy.
You want to see me beat it up?
Okay, sure.
My son is enjoying this.
You wanna bubble the gem?
I can bubble gems.
Aunt Lapis
Probably.
tries to salvage Steven's special day.
Try it out.
Again, this would be episode 1 of this alternate reality, so Steven doesn't know how to do any of this, and it's his first mission. In the real show, I think Steven needed to demonstrate an emotional connection to the gem to use his first bubble. I don't know whether using the warp pad or making a bubble was actually a big deal for Steven, or whether he just hadn't tried to do it before. I doubt that making bubbles or using the warp pad was very hard for Steven at all, but that's sort of irrelevant. I mean, I could make an episode about Steven learning how to make a bubble, but that would be really boring because we already know how it works and that he can do that in the real show. So instead of caring about that, I just skip it entirely and he can just make a bubble because it makes sense to happen right now. It wouldn't be interesting to have Steven go through stuff we've seen him do in the actual show, because we've seen him do that in the actual
Steven,
show,
you
so let's
did
watch
it.
something else.
You bubbled your first gem. We should go show Jasper and Peridot.
Okay.
I do very much enjoy this bit.
Hey, guys!
Look what Steven did.
I bubbled a gem.
Steven, you're out.
Jasper, I hate you.
The gem.
How to Ruin a Moment by Peridot.
Okay, good mission, everyone. Well done, Steven. Time to go home.
Is it bad form to laugh at your own jokes? I don't know. I used to read the script and watch the footage with a blank, expressionless stare because all I was doing was building the work that I'd been building for such a long time. After it had been edited and voice acted and all of that stuff, I started laughing at it again because it had changed so much. It's like if I reread a comic that I'm drawing, if I think of a very funny joke, I laugh at it. Then I turn it into a comic. After working on the comic for like 4 hours, it's not funny anymore. If I go away and come back, it's funny again. But I wonder if that was an excuse to explain why I laugh at my own jokes. But whatever. If you don't laugh at your own jokes, then they're not very funny, and you probably shouldn't have written them down.
Oh, isn't this better, Steven? Nice and safe. Nothing dangerous capable of legally perforating your biomatter.
Purely for the sake of annoying Clarice, the voice actress, the original take of this said, nothing dangerous, capable of lethally perforating your biomatter, because she misread the line. I thought you, the internet, would love to know that. Yeah, Clarice said perforating instead of perforating. Now you know, and she can be embarrassed. In case you're wondering, I'm a bad friend.
You must be so relieved to be home. Well, you've had a busy day, Steven. Time
Fun
for
fact.
bed.
Well, actually, let's listen to the best line in the show.
But it's not even lunchtime yet.
Oh, Steven, you and your food.
It's funny because she's an alien. Anyway, so
Well, you've had a
here,
busy day, Steven.
so
Time
what
for
was
bed.
supposed to happen here is when I was storyboarding, this made a lot more sense. In a comic, I'll explain it first. In the background here, whilst they were walking off screen and setting up the you and your food joke, Lapis and Jasper were supposed to warp in the background and look very... Jasper was being defensive and leaning back, and Lapis was being very aggressive and accusatory. And it was quiet dialogue in the background, angry whispering, and it was...
This is all your fault, Jasper. It was your idea.
Something like that, as they were like, this is your fault, just hating each other for having the day not go well, which is why they were too distracted to do anything else about it. But the issue with having something like that, in a comic, that would work really well, because in a comic, time is frozen, and you could read the background jokes for as long as you wanted and enjoy them, and then go back to the main causality of movement where your eye was supposed to flow. In a video, if I pretend that
Oh, Jasper, this is all your
But
fault.
it's
This is
not
all your
even
fault. Blah, blah,
lunchtime
blah.
yet.
Oh,
See,
Steven.
if that's in the background, then you really lose track of the main flow, which would completely kill this joke. Which is sad, because I really enjoyed having that picture of Jasper and Lapis being very angry at each other.
You and your food.
I could have
Okay.
played the audio here as well and just had them yelling in the background, but again, it just would have been distracting.
You can have lunch, but then you have to put on your pajamas and go to bed.
Mackenzie edited this so that it moved slightly. Although I wrote, drew, directed, organized, and did basically everything, and organized the colorists and the voice actors and the auditions, and directed notes and added notes and provided things. It sounds like I'm bragging. I'm not. I'm just pointing out that there is a huge amount of effort that goes into this stuff. Like a huge amount. And I wouldn't have known to appreciate it as much if I hadn't have done it before. Like, this is my first large-scale project involving a lot of people. The only things that I didn't do in this project was literally edit the images together, and the vast, vast majority of the colouring was done by colorists who agreed to work. Thank you, colorists! I assume you're listening to this. Especially you, Atto. God, Atto coloured a lot. he flooded this with colour. Yeah, but Mackenzie did a lot of work as well. Is basically what I was trying to point out there. Mackenzie did a lot of work. Here Stephen is demonstrating his empathy by going, "Ugh, my alien mothers are bad at this, but they really care." I don't imagine that even with considerably worse parents, Stephen would be very different. He's too pure, he's too innocent, and I don't think he's like fought back against oppressive parents at any point. Stephen's heartbeat increases because he's angry. I thought I'd point this out. This is the same shot and basically the same action as the beginning of the episode because, you know, cyclical nature. Oh, fun fact, this is night. So I mentioned Atto. When the colorists were doing the backgrounds, I did most of the backgrounds, or like a third of them, half of them, I don't quite recall. There was a lot of work involved in this. I did a lot of the backgrounds. And these backgrounds now are nighttime backgrounds, as you can tell. The issue is I hadn't actually put up a palette for the artists, for the colorists to use to colour in the nighttime versions of the backgrounds, or the characters. So they ended up just having daytime colours but at night. And I thought, whatever, we'll just put some masks over it, change the colours a bit with some masks and some Photoshop magic. That didn't work, it looked like garbage. So Mackenzie found some After Effects magic, because that program is like 50% frustration, 50% magic, and managed to use something that identified the colours in the scene, and then just swapped them with other colours, or something. I don't know the specifics. But yeah, this is the exact same colours as daytime, just with an After Effects effect put over it. You'll notice that Lapis did touch the Stephen spare blood packet. I assume only because she was told not to. I drew Peridot's room. Where are we? Da-da-da-da. Here we are. You'll see in the background, this is what Peridot's room is supposed to be. I filled it full of technology wires and those little robonoid things that she has. In this reality, she's got limb enhancers. Who cares? She has limb enhancers, it's no big deal, doesn't matter. If you like, pretend that the reveal that Peridot has limb enhancers in this reality is the same reveal as Garnet revealing she's a fusion. So it would be something like, oh no, Peridot got poofed, and Garnet got poofed and turned into 2 gems. Oh, I never thought about that before. Is she a fusion? Well, in this version of Jailbreak, if it did so occur, Peridot would get poofed, then they'd be like, Peridot, you look like Peridot, but you're really short. Yes, I am normal. Please let me out. And then it goes, Peridot, you've got limb enhancers? Yes. I never told you because I didn't want you to make fun of me like Lapis does. Oh, that makes sense. It wouldn't have been a very dramatic reveal, but whatever. That is a defibrillator. It is violently blue, and I regret how blue it is.
Steven? Holy star, Steven.
The fridge was going to have light coming out of it. Because it would have a light coming out of it. But it was really fiddly and awkward and weird, especially with all the After Effects stuff we had to do to change the colours, so the fridge light turned out.
I thought your heart had malfunctioned. Oh, and you spilled your milk. Really, Steven? You know better than to make snacks in the dark.
Steven shows signs of defiance for the first time in perhaps his young life.
Peridot.
You don't have to apologize, Steven. I'll clean this up and you can just go back to bed. I'll tuck you in when I'm done.
I'm not tired.
What was that, Steven?
I said I'm
Kenzie
not
had to
tired!
do this line a few times because she sort of had to yell, which is difficult because as non-voice actors may not have imagined, when you yell a line, you can't just pretend you're yelling. You can pretend you're whispering, but you can't pretend you're yelling. You can tell. In the same way you can listen to someone smiling and not smiling. And you can actually tell the difference in their voice depending on where their lips are, because of course it changes how the air moves out of your mouth. Yeah, you have to find a place to yell to do good voice acting sometimes.
Are you upset about your milk, Steven?
There's a joke here about crying and spilled milk. It's not intentional, but it's there. Oh, in the upper part of this shot, you can see the Rose painting. Rose is Steven's mother in this reality, because I didn't see any plausible reason why she wouldn't have been.
You can go down and get you some more.
If we were going to replace Rose with someone else in a mum swap, you'd need someone equivalent, but we don't have anyone equivalent, and we don't know the personalities of anyone else, so it just seemed pointless to me. Also, Rose is dead for the entirety of the show, so changing her for someone else who's dead feels like a large waste of time.
Tomorrow.
I'm not upset about the milk. I'm upset because you wouldn't let me do anything all day, even though it was my first mission. And then you made me go to bed at lunchtime. And it is tomorrow, which is why I'm not tired.
Steven, I'm not so sure I like your tone, young man.
Steven panics, having never rebelled against his parents before. If you pay attention to Peridot's expression, she goes from sort of mild anger, consternation of a sort, to just confusion. she gets steadily less certain of what's going on as the shot progresses.
Steven! You've contaminated your plasma!
Ugh.
Steven, where are you going? Steven, you can't activate the orb, Steven!
Fun fact, this rain is 2 pictures. It's rain, and then I grabbed it and I moved it around a little bit and copy-pasted it, and then all you do is play that as a GIF, where it goes, first PNG of rain, second PNG of rain, and it just repeats forever. And it looks like real rain. How easy is that? I assume a big funded studio, like, I don't know why I sound condescending. I expect a big funded studio like Cartoon Network might have 5 PNGs of rain that play on a loop. Or maybe they just have preset loops that just play them nicely.
Steven, come back here! You're not even wearing shoes! Steven, Steven.
The cyclical nature
are
of
you
the
doing?
episode reveals itself again
Steven,
by
no!
having Steven
Steven!
go through all the obstacles, except not being stopped this time, proving that he's capable of doing it, blah blah blah. I mean, I'm sure you figured that out already.
Steven, please get down from there. It's dangerous. You could hurt yourself. Or better yet, just stay still and I'll get you down.
Peridot.
There was extra footage here that made this bit a lot longer. We ended up actually cutting that extra bit and making it even shorter. It really didn't need extra moments of them staring at each other. It made it feel melodramatic. I have a worry this is a touch melodramatic, but it was a lot worse. So we toned it down. I feel it's okay. I worried about this feeling a bit like cringy and drama-y, this scene here. But I tried to base Steven's speech on the other speech he gives in the show, where he sees Amethyst turning into Rose, and then he's like, "You just gotta let go of that stuff. You gotta throw it out." I tried to base the speech on that speech.
Peridot, I'm really sorry I scared you. I know that you worry a lot when you think I'm in danger.
Isn't
from
Mackenzie
rocks.
good at Steven? It's in the comments a lot, but Mackenzie's really good at Steven. She said that Zach complimented her on her Steven impression, which is the only compliment you need. Yeah. Doesn't Mackenzie love to brag about how much she knows the show cast? Just always... Okay, Mackenzie isn't here to defend herself, so I'll stop that joke right there. It's a lot funnier in the original commentary where Mackenzie can express irate dissatisfaction with me pretending that she's this smug bragger when she feels very... I hope Mackenzie's listening to this point and is annoyed. Why don't you fill her inbox with annoying messages asking her why she loves bragging so much? Second confirmation that I am a bad friend.
Or getting sick or being on missions, and I know it's because you care, but you can't always be there to protect me from all that stuff. You need to let me do some things on my own.
Originally, Peridot just cried. It was a bit... I mean, a character had to cry. It was a Steven Universe episode, and we were trying to be as accurate to the show as possible, so someone had to cry. So obviously it would be Peridot. But we did the thing that happened with Peridot's visor a while ago in the actual show when a raindrop hits them and then dribbles on the side. And you're like, is that tears? Does it represent tears or is it covering real tears? It doesn't quite matter. But, you know, it's tears. It looks like someone's crying. Steven, you could fall and seriously damage your cranium. Good thing you're wearing your helmet. Oh, Steven, you're not wearing your helmet. You fall and seriously damage your cranium. That's called foreshadowing. For those of you who aren't aware what foreshadowing is when you have dialogue or actions in your media or text that lead in they make you suspect that something is going to happen in the future. Like if there's a film about Christmas that's famous for this, where throughout the entire film there's a kid asking for a BB gun or an air gun or whatever, and everyone in the whole film says, "You'll shoot your eye out." And then finally, when he gets his gun right at the end of the film, he takes a shot, it rebounces, and it hits him in the eye. And he goes, "Ah, I shot my eye." That's foreshadowing.
I don't think he likes the helmet.
What's wrong with helmets? This is because Jasper has a helmet weapon and would be quite affronted if Steven didn't like helmets. I like to imagine that after this, the gems consider that wearing a helmet is actually a pretty good idea when you're on dangerous missions. I mean, if I was Steven, I'd wear safety gear like one does when one is skateboarding, because I wouldn't see any flaw in that. But yeah, I imagine Steven in this universe wears a helmet whenever he goes on missions from now on, and it probably saves him a few times, and he goes, "Wow, that was a good idea."
He's waking up. You okay, buddy?
Peridot went out and bought more chocolate milk. It was an apology.
hurts. Well, you did fall off a rock.
Steven, I realize I may have been a bit constraining with you lately. So I am going to be making an effort
The
to
look
allow
there
you
is
more...
implying that Peridot has had this conversation and is basically repeating what they all decided would be the best thing for her to do.
freedom to learn
Not that
on
she doesn't
your own.
believe what she's saying, merely that the other gems are like, you better say this.
Does this mean you're gonna stop doing health checkups?
Of course not, Steven. You just got concussed.
Oh.
But after you get better, we can change it to once a week, like you wanted.
Oh.
I feel I should reiterate a second time, just because I imagine this really annoyed Mackenzie. Mackenzie does not like to brag about the people she meets. It just makes her very happy.
Hey, can I have my second pillow back? Cool.
Stephen wakes up in bed, with his eyes opening for the third time whilst people are over him and he's plugged into the device. Cyclical nature of the episode.
My head still hurts.
Boom! Okay, episode over. I'll flash back to some bits that I missed, possibly. Stephen was Mackenzie Atwood. She does an excellent job. Peridot was by Clarice. Jasper was by Alice. Alice edited the test footage. She really, really wanted her credit in the credits section to be the word helpful next to a Lenny face with its thumbs up. I thought this was an excellent idea, and Mackenzie just hated it. She hated it really badly. Lapis was Anisha Grant. Here are our colorists. They are in order of how much coloring they did. While everyone spent time coloring, and I appreciate all of their efforts. I appreciate all of your efforts, guys, if you're watching. The three at the top did considerably the most. However, Aaron, Atomusk, I assume that's how you pronounce it. I have genuinely no idea. Aaron, I can pronounce Aaron, that's a real name. Aaron did an absurd amount of coloring. Frankly absurd, and I think he's the only one that colored any backgrounds, and he did about half the backgrounds, or 2/3, or something absurd like that. He worked really hard on this project, guys. He did a lot of coloring. I mean, my god. It's not to say that the others didn't, it's just that he did an absurd amount. The music in this is directly taken from the show. It's just music from the show itself, in case you're wondering. That's why it's a non-profit fan-based parody, because, well, one, even if we used our own sound effects, this would not be able... We wouldn't be able to put adverts on it, because it would be clear copyright infringement, because that would be the same thing as writing a fan fiction about Steven Universe and then selling it. Not that I wanted to make money off it, but, like, yeah, fun fact. Okay, now we're going to fiddle with a bunch of extra detail, just for a hot second. Right. Here we're going to hop around for a second, and just glance at stuff that we glossed over. We see in the background, here we go, Lauren Zook's avatar, her first avatar and her second avatar, slightly redrawn, are the little background posters. They're the only reference I included in the entire thing, because I think referencing's a bit gross, because it really pulls you out of what you're watching, and it's unnecessary, and you have to get the reference or it's not fun. So I only had one reference just in the background somewhere. Hop forward some more. We talked about this, we talked about that. What was the other fun things? Ooh, there's one at the end that I need to get around. People think there's a shot over here where Steven has an additional finger. Out of salt and pride, I am going to point out that it's not true, and it's merely Steven's egregiously fat wrists. Because Steven doesn't have wrists. His arms are just sausages that bend at the elbow. Let's see if I can find this shot I actually legitimately don't. Oh, here you go. Okay, so you see Steven's right hand? People think he's got an extra finger. That's his wrist. There you go, now you know. You're free to go. That's it. Okay, cool. I will now grab any questions I can find from the comments and just sort of try and answer them, I guess. I'll also reiterate before I forget, thanks everyone who helped out. Thanks everyone who watched. I see that a lot of you have watched, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate. I find it funny that everyone says, "Wow, that was good," and I didn't expect it to be. I understand. I wouldn't have expected a fan episode to be good. I'd assumed it would be a bit iffy and weird, but I would have said the same thing. But I appreciate that you guys enjoy it and you think it's got good quality. We all worked hard on it. It took a lot of effort. I mean, gosh. It took Mackenzie a long time to stitch it all together. These are all individually saved PNGs from various layers after the colouring has been attached to stuff, all just pieced together very quickly or very slowly, depending on the speed we need them to move. That's the whole thing. Mackenzie stitched all these together, attached all the audio to those bits. She definitely did a lot of work. A joke I like to make whenever we're discussing them is that I did loads of work and no one cares. But out of context of talking to the other people that also worked on the show, it just sounds like I'm being smug, salty, and condescending. So I won't make that joke without explaining it afterwards. Is there any other details that I have missed? I do not believe that I have. I will now jump over to the questions, which I don't particularly think there are very many. Okay, this is the additional questions stuff. What did we use to edit the video, animation, and the colour we placed together? I drew everything in Paint Tool Sci, and then I dragged those layers into Photoshop, and then, I did the line art, and then I dragged those layers into Photoshop, and then I handed those files over to people, gave them a spreadsheet, and they coloured them in other files, which I then stapled together, and I dragged the coloured character onto a coloured background, with coloured frames, and then I would save every single frame individually. I have gigantic folders full of frames, and then we'd layer them all together until we had one single frame, and then the next frame with the different layers, and then Mackenzie stitched all of them together in After Effects and placed everything underneath it, all the audio, that stuff. Yeah, it's very simple, a bit time consuming. Now that I have learned how to do animation in Flash, anything I make in the future is probably going to be in Flash. I now have the capacity to edit, whereupon once I did not. You can check out, you're on my channel, check out some of the stuff that I've made. One of the more recent things I made was Hey Baby, Don't You Touch My Spine. That was an example of storyboarding in Flash. It's a horror, so I wanted to make it slower, but we had a time constraint of 1 minute, so it goes by a little longer than I wanted it. A little more quickly than I wanted it to. Lol, whatever, skip. Someone wants to know which character makes me smile the most. Me. Sorry. Probably Pearl. Pearl is the most interesting character by a mile. She has the most interesting stuff going on. She does the cutest things. Peridot's funny, and I like her, but I think Pearl overall. Someone wants to know tall Perry or short. My friend Perry is middle height, average height, but if I had to say anything, I'd pick short. It's as a joke response to I think a joke question. A lot of people want to know if the Crewniverse has or will see it. I assume some of them have. I think Mackenzie confirmed to me that some of them have. She directly showed it to some people who work at Cartoon Network, just some people who work there, and they were impressed. They thought it was cool. That was lovely to hear. It's lovely to hear that you think it's cool. Strangers in my inbox. I appreciate it all. Yeah. What else? It's, am I making any more? No, I am not making any more Steven Universe episodes. I don't want to have an internet career, so to speak, that is entirely Steven Universe. I also want to make my own stuff. I'll still do Steven Universe comics and silly nonsense, and things like that. But I don't want to make more Steven Universe episodes. They're nice, and I have ideas. I certainly have ideas. I would love to make the first follow up that I thought of was while exploring a battlefield on their like 4th or 5th mission, Steven opens a little hole because Steven always manages to find something. Maybe he has empathetic powers. Who knows? Maybe. Well, I think he does, but whatever. We know he does. Blah, blah, blah. Steven's empathetic powers make him go, huh? And he crawls into a small hole, opens a box, and he finds a pearl in a box, i.e., the gem, without the body. And then a body forms, and the pearl goes, oh, hello. They open the door and go, oh, hey, a pearl! Sweet! I always wanted a pearl. And then they take the pearl home. And Steven doesn't understand that pearls are just servant class. And the other gems just treat pearl like a pearl. I don't know what pearls to be. I assume this is a completely random pearl. Someone's pearl somewhere. Who was born and then I think immediately just like got shoved in a box for safety. And so she's like, but I like helping. Steven goes, you don't have to just do what everyone tells you. She goes, no, it's fine. And they go, Steven, it's fine. She loves holding up the other side of this hammock so I can have it facing the other way all day. Like, I don't know. The idea would be he takes Pearl on a walk and is annoyed and confused by the way that Pearl only seems to want to do what she's either told to do or what she thinks he wants. Eventually he gets Pearl to like sing karaoke, and she's like, I like this. Everyone's like, wow, she's pretty and sings well. And then she goes and joins a band and then leaves. And the others are like, huh, oh, I didn't think Pearls could do that. That's really disappointing. I hope she'll come back and clean up a bit. It was great not having to clean up. Yeah, that was the idea. The other theory was doing the Jasper episode where Jamie falls for her instead of Garnet. Jamie goes to visit and says, I'm in love with one of you. She goes, hang on, I'll go get Lapis. And he goes, no, not Lapis. Jasper looks disgusted. Paradox? No, you. Oh. And then Jasper goes, sure, okay, we'll date. And then she goes, look, everyone, I have a pet human, just like Rose did. And then Jamie eventually realizes that they're not an equal relationship and goes, cool, I'll just leave. She ends the episode by hitting on Greg, who then says, maybe you should not try and be like Rose. Maybe you should be your own person. Be something Rose couldn't be. Like a mother. And Jasper goes, oh, it's a really nice thought. And then she focuses on being a mother for Steven more instead of trying to emulate Rose. That was it. Those were the episodes I had structured in my brain for a while. Currently what I'm doing is, I was going to say secret project, but I'm making I'm making an episode of some nonsense called When Life Gives You Flemons with a friend, with Alice, who is the voice of Jasper, and she's a writer. And I don't mean like she sits down and writes fan fiction after school. I mean like she's employed as a writer. To everyone in the audience who sits down after school and writes fan fiction, please keep writing fan fiction. That is not a dismissal of what you do. I just mean it's her actual job as opposed to just a hobby she does in her free time. We're working on something. I'm considering opening up a Patreon for it so I can work on it real hard. I'd love to do a series of short episodes / shorts, like a minute to like 5 minutes long, a bunch of different things with the same characters, just as a sort of experiment. Keeping it short means I can add animation, not animate the whole thing, that's insane, but just bits of animation to make it nicer and keep it more interesting and blah, 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 blah. So that's my plan for what I want to do. I keep talking about making a webcomic, but I think I'd rather just make little episodes of stuff. Maybe in the far-flung future I will create a webcomic that isn't bad comics for unattractive people, where I just post silly comics. I mean a webcomic with a plot. I doubt I'll be able to make a webcomic with a plot while I'm doing so much other stuff. So yeah, if you're still listening, grats on still being here. I assume soonish you'll see some more updates from me on the lines of my next animated project, which would be When Life Gives You Lemons. Until that time, yeah. Thanks for watching The Smothering. Thanks for still listening, if you are still listening, which of course you are because you're listening right now. That almost became a Did a Tree Fall in the Forest moment. Thanks, guys. I have a tendency to ramble, so I'm just going to hit the stop button. Thanks for enjoying my project.